going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the Blood Feud podcast. This is Neil.
This is Sam.
We just wanted to say thank you if you tuned in to the first one. If this is your first time checking us out, welcome.
Hello. We do want to say that it is National Podcast Day.
We
Picked a good day to do this. So yeah,
whatever National Podcast Day means.
There's a day for every day of the year.
Are you supposed to upload on National Podcast Day?
I don't know. If that's the case, you're right. If that's the case, we missed it. So, but we are recording this on National Podcast Day. It is Wednesday,
September 30th.
We're repping, and this week we're talking about Eli Roth's new film, The Green Inferno.
Yeah. I guess let's start off and talk a little bit about Eli Roth. Are you familiar with any of his other films?
I wanted to ask you about this. I'm not super familiar. I've seen like half of Hostel.
Okay.
And
that's it?
Yeah. Now, did he produce Cabin in the Woods? Did he have something to do with Cabin in the Woods?
He did Cabin Fever.
Oh,
Cabin in the Woods was Joss Whedon.
Yeah, Joss. Okay.
As far as Eli Roth goes, as a producer, he's got a long list of stuff. None of it's really like amazing stuff. As a director, as far as his movies goes, he's done a couple like shorts and films. He's only directed like 4 films. He did Cabin Fever was his first full-length film, and then he did Hostel 2, and Green Inferno.
Interesting. I thought he had a more extensive catalog.
Well, when he that's where his producer credits come in, because you see his name over from producer Eli Roth, which how much does that mean? I don't know.
Judging from this movie, I don't know if that means a whole lot, but I don't really want to get into that right now.
So I will say that I was a fan of Cabin Fever.
I need to see his old films because I want to judge based on those.
Cabin Fever was solid. Hostel, I was not a fan of. It was one of those movies, same for Hostel 2, that just seemed like the only thing it had going for it was, oh, dude, look at it's blood and guts and it's gross. So I guess going off that, let's get into a little bit of Green Inferno, or the background of Green Inferno.
So I do want to say, and I don't want to really talk about this because you haven't seen this film, and it doesn't actually matter at all. But this film, The Green Inferno, is very marginally based on a movie called Cannibal Holocaust, which is from 1985. And in this movie, a bunch of filmmakers go to the Green Inferno, which is an area of the Congo, I believe. Anyway, but that's what it's kind of based off of, although really not at all. It's not at all based off that
It's
movie.
just Eli Roth saw Cannibal Holocaust, he liked it, and he said, I want to do that.
Which is about cannibal tribes and Americans going to film them, which is kind of what this movie is about. But this movie is about a group of what would you call them?
They're like activists.
Eco-activists, and really they're going to save a tribe.
It's a little bit the
They're
tribe,
going
but
to
it's
try
also
to save the land that the tribe is on, that is going to be bulldozed by
an oil company in Chile.
Eco-terrorists or whatever.
Right.
I don't know what
eco-terrorists, is that a thing?
Eco-terrorists. It is,
eco-activists and eco-terrorists?
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what they go to do. I don't want to get into the movie just yet. Let's hear some more.
So I guess one thing that's notable about this movie is it was supposed to come out last year. It was supposed to come out last September, and they pulled it. And I'm sure a lot of people might be thinking, oh, is it because of the gore? Is it because of the content? Is it too gruesome? It's a no to both of those.
I would also say it's a no.
It's pulled because of financial reasons. The production company, the production company pulled it because they didn't have money, and then another company, Blumhouse, which is they did Paranormal Activity and Sinister and all those new horror movies. They picked it up and put it out to release,
which I'm sure Eli Roth was glad to have those those names on the. Because it does say
from
that
the producer of Paranormal Activity, and
will set that sets an inaccurate tone from the very start. But the point is, that's very interesting. I thought it was pulled because it just leaked, and then they were like, nope.
Yeah, no, they did. I think it was like the president of the company changed. The new president didn't want to put the film out. basically.
Okay, that's interesting.
So I guess let's get into some spoiler-free thoughts real quick.
Yeah. First of all,
you go ahead. Go ahead.
Spoiler-free thoughts. I get, I don't want to say too much about what I thought of the movie right now, but I will say that even just from the start, the movie, it's hard to say what the style of the movie is.
Right. It's a B movie. It's like an old school B movie.
Yeah, and even the soundtrack, the first scene is just credits, and the soundtrack just sounds to me like some kind of like jungle action movie. There's really not a lot of personality there. So that was just initially what I noticed. Also the first like 40 minutes of this movie is like the characters and nothing
in their college hometown.
Right. And that for me was a problem because the characters weren't very strong.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit.
The characters.
I think that, let me just start off by saying I don't think this is a very good movie.
Right.
But then I also wonder if this wasn't supposed to be a good movie.
Right. One of the things that I want to talk about later, once we're talking about spoilers, is I want to ask you, who do you think this movie is for?
We can talk about that.
And that's because it's really hard to say. But let's talk about characters.
Yeah. So
Sky Fiera is in this movie.
Which I've never heard of her.
A musician.
She's a musician, apparently. We might start to get into a little bit of spoiler territories right now, I would say. Just a heads up if you're
as far as characters go.
Yeah, something might slip.
Sure.
So if you're trying to avoid spoilers, maybe skip ahead a little bit. Nothing major. We won't spoil the end of the movie or anything yet. But let's talk about Sky Ferreria's character.
Which I was just going to say, I don't really know much about her as a musician.
I've never heard of her.
It's unclear why Eli Roth wanted to put this musician, this character in the film. She's pretty much the first character we get a glimpse of.
Correct.
And what is her name? Is it Janice?
The character's name?
Justine,
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Justine and Sky Fiera's character, whose name escapes me. Casey? Okay. One of the things I thought was weird about this is that it seemed to be setting Casey up, Sky Fiera, as a main character, and she very soon leaves.
She disappears. Well, she doesn't disappear. The rest of the cast disappears.
Right.
But
so
I was definitely expecting, because she's portrayed as a bitch, kind of.
Yeah.
She's annoyed by everybody, and she's portrays herself as being better than everybody. So I was kind of looking forward to watching her bite the dust. Which
brings up another really quick point, is that there's a couple characters that are pretty hateable in this movie. And, I guess quick spoiler, turn this off if you don't want to hear it. You never get the catharsis of seeing any of these characters that are hateable get theirs. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I guess I don't think there's any likable character in this movie.
Yeah,
the only one you could make an argument for is Justine. She's likable to like a flaw, though. Like she's the type of person. She's a freshman at college, and she's trying to be like, oh, I'm an adult now, and I want to make a difference in the world. Right. And she just comes off as like not a bad person, just annoying
and an ignorant person.
And
here's another problem: is you get the sense that at first I was like, okay, Eli Roth wants us to hate these people.
That's what I felt like.
They're gonna all die, and that would have been kind of nice. But spoiler, that's not really what happens at all. And plus, it starts to come off as it's just bad writing. These characters aren't really.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's the toss-up. Is it bad writing or is it intended? We'll never know.
Right.
I usually like to give directors and writers the benefit of the doubt, and if it's that bad, it's probably on purpose.
Right.
But I mean, it's tough to say. Eli Roth's never been known for his writing. He's never, you know what I mean? Like he's not winning any Oscars anytime soon for
sure.
His scripts.
Right, and now that comes back to, not to address all these quote unquote problems, because I really do want to make this more about the questions rather than the problems, because there's a lot of things I could say are problems, but one of them is that when the writing is or whatever, when the characters aren't memorable, when they're not compelling, and you're trying to rely on them so much, as this movie does for about half the movie before it really gets into.
Oh yeah.
That's a problem. And also, if your characters and your writing is not compelling, you better have some intense stuff. You better have some messed up stuff going on.
Which is totally what I was expecting, and
right.
I think we'll talk about it later. So I don't want to say too much. But
we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about the gore scenes, the death scenes.
Yep.
So I guess after.
First of all, to clear up the stuff with Casey and Justine, these are college roommates, freshmen. I totally missed where they are. It doesn't matter. They're in a city.
It doesn't.
There's
one thing I did think was interesting, but it bothered me too, was that a lot of the characters, you could tell were Latin American, South American,
right?
And then it almost didn't make sense because the majority of the people at this school were Latin American, and I think it's cool that Eli Roth chose to use actors from the country that this film was being filmed in, which was Chile, I believe.
Yeah.
But it I don't know, it didn't make sense to have all these Latin American. I mean, not that there's not Latin American people, but to have all these Latin American people at this school as the only people at the school. Right.
Yeah, that was definitely weird to me too. The other thing is that who is his name? Alejandro? Is that?
Yeah,
the leader of the activist club.
Right.
His name is Alejandro. He's cast as
he kind of seems like he's going to be the hero before they go to the Amazon.
Right.
He's like their leader. He seems like the strong kind of typical male lead role character.
Yeah, and this turns out to be pretty much the opposite,
right.
which I also didn't appreciate because it was a very it just seemed like a very cliche move on the part of I don't know, when I don't want to say too much, but like when there's a villain character in this type of movie, it doesn't really come off well.
Right.
I don't think.
Yeah. I think there's already a natural built-in villain in the story of the Amazon and the tribe.
Right. So to sum up, I guess the whole premise of the movie, obviously these people who are maybe not the best people or maybe just haven't been written as the best people, you know what I mean?
Right.
Are going to go to the jungle and try to make some change, and they're going to find out that they're not really going to be able to do that.
Or at least that they probably shouldn't be doing that, because just because someone's an indigenous tribe doesn't make them good people.
Right. So let's move into some spoilers right now, but first let's just give a summation of what did you think, spoiler free?
I think it's not a great movie. I think if you go in with I don't think it's a movie you should see at a movie theater. I think it's a movie you should sit in a room with a bunch of your friends and just kind of laugh at it.
Yeah, I agree. There were a lot of moments where I found myself laughing, a lot of moments. What I want to say about it before we move on is that I think the movie fails to recognize what it actually wants to be.
Yeah, I think the idea of this movie is a lot better than the actual film itself.
Yeah. I was so excited to see this movie.
Yeah.
You know, given what it was based on and also just what it was about. And my buddy actually was the one that showed me the trailer for it, and I'm like, this looks sick. And I don't know if I went in with I don't think I went in with too high of expectations.
No, I honestly, I wanted to see, because the idea of being kidnapped by an indigenous tribe that doesn't speak your language, that doesn't follow your customs, and that's what they do. They eat people.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. They outnumber you. That's it. I wanted a hopeless, I don't know. It's just, that's the idea of that is scarier than than the movie actually was.
Yep, it's scarier and less brutal than than the movie actually was. The last thing I'll say, we'll talk about it maybe more, is that the last thing that I was pretty disappointed in was that the movie kind of portrays this tribe not in a very, I don't know, you think that these unintelligent white people are going to go in, or, you know, some of them are South American, and just get slaughtered, and they're going to look like the ones that are unintelligent, you know, but the tribe is also not cast in a really intelligent or, like, insightful way, and I that confused me because there wasn't, and there doesn't need to be a message, but it just kind of subverted this idea that ignorant white people shouldn't go some places. Right. Anyway, so yeah, my thoughts are about the same as yours. I think even less than yours, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So I guess spoilers coming up.
Yep. Shut it off if you don't want spoilers. You know, I'd recommend definitely, like you said, not seeing it in theaters.
Right.
Get it online or wait for it to come out.
I mean, this movie goes pretty much how you would expect it to go. There's not like a huge major plot twist.
Yeah, I'd say there's no.
So I mean, if you're worried about the film being spoiled to the point where you won't enjoy it, I don't think I would worry about that.
Right. So without further ado, let's get a little more in depth. I guess we've talked about the beginning quite a bit.
One thing before we move on from the beginning that I do want to say, did you notice the foreshadowing?
Oh, do tell.
It was extremely heavy-handed to the point where it was comical. So the main character, Justine, goes and meets her dad for dinner or lunch. Oh. And there's several close-up shots of him cutting his steak.
No, totally.
Putting it in his mouth.
I did like that, yeah.
And then when they finally get to Peru or Chile, is it Peru? I mean, it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Well, they're in I believe, they could be, you're right, they're in Peru. Okay, well, continue.
They land and they get off their plane and they go to like this town, and there's a guy, he's got like coconuts, and he cuts a coconut in half with a machete, and it's a close-up of that, and then it's a close-up of his face staring at the main character.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so lame, and like, I don't know, like I guess if you were going to do foreshadowing about a cannibal movie, I feel like there's better ways to go about it, I guess.
Yeah. No, that was very funny. I noticed that, and I wasn't really thinking about the meat totally on her dad's plate. But yeah, heavy-handed is a good word to describe everything that happens in the movie.
True. Yeah, it's
so linear, and there's like no twists or turns. The one twist is, of course, that they go and they, once they're in Peru, they tie themselves to these trees. Upriver, way in the jungle, and they're trying to stop these bulldozers. And then you find out later that this was all a ploy by Alejandro. He's, right. Joke's on you. I'm the bad guy. I'm evil.
Well, he's working with the bad guys. 'Cause right. As he says, everything is connected, the good and the bad. And this is where he drops a Bush did 9/11 line.
A very distasteful because of how
out
it's
of nowhere
delivered. It makes
just,
no sense.
Right. He says that like the bad guys pay the good guys or something. He goes, you think George Bush didn't propagate 9/11?
Yeah, something like that.
It's just like, I couldn't tell if that was Eli Roth trying to make a point that he believes that, or if it's, I guess, a joke.
That's the whole, and that's like the theme of the whole movie. Is this a joke? Is this supposed to be funny, or is this supposed to be serious?
I think later on we should talk about the scenes that are supposed to be funny, and then you can decide for yourself if they're funny.
Anyway, there's another scene, so we really don't, all you need to know about the first 25 minutes of this movie is that it's too much reliance on characters that aren't memorable or compelling. There's a scene right in the beginning when Justine is about to leave her roommate Casey, and there's a weird reference that Casey might be in love with Justine because she's like, oh, wait. And Justine's what? And she's like, oh, never mind. And am I supposed to care? Sky's not going to be in the whole rest of the movie.
I was expecting her to say, I'm going to go with you.
Yeah, well, for sure.
But
I don't understand why, so maybe that was his way of trying to create connection. It didn't work for me. Anyway, so there's a lot of lead up. Justine joins Alejandro's activist group, which there's a lot of really bad interplay where he's like, you're not ready to do this. And she's like, I am ready. And then it's, you know. And what, so they go to Peru. Once I do want to talk about a scene where while they were traveling upriver, to get to where they were going to tie themselves to the trees.
Yeah.
There's a scene where one of the characters goes in the woods to relieve himself.
Let's mention that this character is played by the young boy from Spy Kids.
No way.
Yep, his name is
I
believe it's Daryl Saba, and he was
Oh my god.
Daryl Sabara, and he was Julian, I think was the kid's name from Spy Kids.
Wow.
Which, like, if you know it, you can see it, but I don't know. It's just a little funny.
How did you? Oh, you just looked that up?
Someone told me like that the Spy Kids kid was in this movie, but I don't know. It's not really relevant. It's just kind of funny.
That is funny. Anyway, so there's a scene where you this isn't too important, but he's peeing and it kind of shows his penis in the shot, and there's a tarantula crawling toward it. And this is just one of those scenes that I don't. Why is that funny? In the movie?
Is that supposed to be funny?
And he starts shooting in the air, and he's like, and
he runs off. Yeah,
and it just seems like one of those scenes where he was like, let's put a penis in our movie,
right? Which,
again, maybe that's a little radical, but if you compare it to movies like the original film where there's was nudity throughout the whole thing, this is. Why put this in? I don't know. It didn't seem like it needed to be in there. The film didn't really even go farther than that either. There was no reason.
As far as nudity, you mean?
Yeah, and I'm not saying there should have been, but it almost something like that. It just, why was that there?
Right,
it made no sense.
A cheap laugh.
It was a cheap shock, a cheap laugh.
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that scene up because I hated that scene.
So are we at the plane crash?
Yeah. Well, then they tie themselves to the trees. There's nothing really to say about that. I guess it's dramatic. I don't know. And they quote unquote save the land.
The land.
Spoiler: no, they don't. Alejandro's going to tell us later why they don't save the land. Yeah. So they're going to get out of there. They're drinking booze on a plane. It's great. Before they get on the plane, you see you see their guide slip this dude some money.
He's like a government official, like a military type.
Yeah, so you can kind of tell something's not right. Plane crashes. It's unclear. It was probably sabotaged.
They do mention that it might have been sabotaged because Alejandro's friend from the country, they say, is mixed up in a lot of illegal stuff.
Right.
They say it might be drugs, but
whatever.
They never really say. So
this is when things start to go bad.
They wipe out about half, maybe a little, like a quarter maybe of the characters in the plane crash, which surprised me.
One of the initial problems is that they start out, this whole debacle with the cannibals starts out with very few people left to actually kill.
Right. And it did seem like characters kind of appeared out of nowhere in the plane crash. Did you notice that?
Yep.
There was the guy that busts his face on the bottle. He wasn't in any scenes before that. Or the girl that gets stuck in the tree.
Yeah,
she was not in any scenes before that, and it's like, where did? Maybe I missed something, but where did these people come from?
I don't know. It's one of many weird continuity issues or whatever with the film. I guess there's a good scene here where Alejandro's girlfriend dies.
Yeah, and she takes a spear through her.
Yeah, the cannibals also show up very quickly, which is fine. I'm not quite sure how they responded to that crash that quickly, but that's okay. That's not a problem, and they very quickly spear through the head. Well, it's more like a dart, but it doesn't really matter.
Well, they do have tranquilizer darts, and then they also have spears, which it seems weird to me that if they're going to be eating these people, why would they go out of their way to kill some of them?
Yeah, I don't know. But so they kill her. They don't kill anyone else. Not sure what's going on with that. But
because the one guy walks into the still spinning propeller blade.
Oh yeah, that's good. Right, but I'm saying the cannibals don't really kill. She's the only one they kill, so I don't understand. Anyway, that's brutal. She died. She gets one through the head and then another one through the neck, and it's like it's almost laughable, but it's brutal, I guess.
So we're left with like 6 people.
I think so.
6 or 7.
We've got Justine. We've got Alejandro. We've got Jonah.
Amy, Sam, and Lars. Oh, and then there's the guy with the beard. Is that Daniel?
Right. Are we talking about the African-American man?
No, that was Jonah.
Okay, that's Jonah.
And then there's the guy with the beard, the big beard. He's bald.
Oh, yeah, the bald guy.
So there's about 7.
I think there's 7. 3 girls, 4 guys.
And I'm expecting a pretty good death scene for each one of them, except maybe one main character.
Right. And as it turns out, the first death scene is
by far the best.
Which
and
is,
that was one of the things that disappointed me. Is I was like, okay, that's cool. Let's see it get better, and it just got worse.
Yeah. Because I was expecting, okay, man, that was pretty brutal, and it is, and we'll talk about it for a minute. But I'm like, it's gonna get worse, and,
right?
Before that death occurs, I do want to say that one of the stronger points of this movie, they both happen almost simultaneously, is when they take the survivors from the plane, put them in boats, tie them up, and cart them over to the cannibal. It's not an island; it's just the area of the jungle. And this scene is cool because you see this giant red flock of tribesmen, natives.
Yeah,
this is a real tribe. That's the other reason why I thought this movie was going to be.
Yeah,
sick.
no, I appreciate that he went and got an actual tribe and said, "Hey, do you want to be in a movie?" And they said, "What's a movie?"
Yeah,
and he had to show them what a movie was, and they were, let's do it. But,
and also they're not portrayed extremely well. Also,
that's true. They probably don't even know how they're being portrayed, though.
Right, which I don't appreciate. But I did think they're all painted kind of red. They look very ominous. The presentation is good in a movie that is otherwise very styleless.
Yeah, like I did like the contrast between the red. You're supposed to assume it's blood that they're painted with, I think. And the green of the jungle, the Green Inferno.
Yep, it's very green, very colorful.
So yeah, let's. Do you want to talk about the first death scene?
Right. So they're all put in a cage, and the first death scene is Jonah, I believe, kind of a bigger black man. And this scene is brutal. You get a lot.
They drug him.
Right. They drug him. You get a lot of quick flashes of the stuff happening. They put him on a chopping block, and they very procedurally, systematically.
Harvest him.
Yeah,
that's a good word for it.
That is a good word. They chop off all his limbs.
They start with his eyes.
Oh, they do.
They do an eye, a nose.
There's a witch doctor lady.
Do they get his tongue?
They get his tongue.
His tongue. So the eyes, the nose,
brutal.
Which I've never seen anybody get their nose cut off in a movie. That was different.
Right, and the shaman, the woman, it's a woman who's leading the tribe in these rituals. She procedurally eats these parts of him when she takes them out. The eyes, the tongue, of course the limbs they put in their ovens. It's brutal, and he's screaming the whole time, and
then they finally take his head off.
Yeah, lastly.
Right, because he's still alive when he gets all his limbs cut off, and as he's getting his head cut off.
Yep, and it's the most effective scene in the movie because all the other white people in the cage are well, they're not all white, but all the people from America. I'm not being fair. I'm sorry. The people from America, the tourists, are in the cage, and they just get to
hopeless.
Watch this. Yeah.
That's what I wish this movie would have been. It's hopeless. But then from there, they start to plot, and this is a quote from the film: "Scooby-Doo plans to get out."
That's right.
So
that is a real quote.
Scooby-Doo plans.
Oh, I forgot about that. So problem number one. There's not a lot of people to kill. I do want to say that, let's see, there's one girl that tries to escape. She is supposed to maybe be the girlfriend of another girl.
Yeah.
That is in there.
Before she tries to escape.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
This is how she tries to. Going back even further, this is where I guess the movie kind of loses its tone and tries to do something funny. When one of the girls has a fit of diarrhea. I don't know how else to put it. And she says just fart noises and poop noises.
Terrible. I don't know who the Foley artist was for this, or if there was a Foley artist. I don't know. It sounds like they recorded somebody blowing their tongue.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's awful. And she's just like, I'm going to be sick. And everybody's like, don't do it. Don't. And I'm just asking, where are you guys relieving? Where are you guys doing this?
Right.
Everybody's got to go to the bathroom. Where are you guys doing it? So, yeah, the scene to me is just laughable, but is it supposed to be funny? I don't know.
You don't know.
It's hard to say. Around the same time, though, there's another kind of cool scene. Surrounding all of the cannibal talk and the eco talk, there's this... the film introduces the topic of female genital mutilation and circumcision at the beginning, and you're kind of wondering, is this going to come into play? Yes, it does, but... privy to the rest of the film's style. It's never really taken to its full.
It was really like, it seemed like Eli Roth just decided, oh, I'll pick a relevant topic that's being debated right now and throw it into my movie.
Yep. So there's a good scene where all the women are selected from the cage. Well, it's decent, and they're brought out, they're stripped down, and the shaman, the female shaman, comes out and sticks a blade, inside them, up inside them. And what the shaman is doing is checking to see which one of them are virgins. Of course, Justine is the virgin. I don't appreciate this part because, again, it's taking advantage of that whole virginity trope that's so common in like horror movies. Right. It's interesting though. I thought it was interesting. So she's been selected for something. You don't know what. Later
you can assume they're either going to eat her because she's a virgin, or they're going to mutilate her because she's a virgin.
And of course, they decide to do the second one, which is to circumcise her. Although it's really unclear why they're doing this, because I thought they're cannibals. Why they're trying to make her one of them. A
part of the tribe, almost, yeah.
I don't understand that. I guess, I don't know. And of course, we'll talk about it in a minute, but they don't even take it there.
No,
it doesn't.
It doesn't get there.
I mean, there's literally a scene where it's going to happen, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is going to happen. I'm finally about to. This is going to be bad.
Finally.
Like this is going to be bad. For the first time, this film is going to be really bad.
Right.
And then anyway. So that's coming.
So we'll get to the Scooby-Doo plans then. You want to talk
Let's
about...
talk about... Oh, okay. God. Let's talk about the Scooby-Doo plans.
So the first plan they have is one of the guys has a cell phone. And they mentioned earlier in the film that the cell phones will work because they've set up satellites. And they don't call anyone. They use the cell phone to play a ringer, a ringtone, and they throw it out of the cage.
This. In broad daylight, I do want to say they're trying to distract this guard that is on a tower. Yep. And they're like, it's cool, I'll throw the phone, he'll run for it because he's a stupid native. Another instance of Eli Roth really making these natives seem like more than savages, right? No. So, of course, the native falls for it because it's, he doesn't know what a cell phone is. One of the women is able to escape. The girl who had to relieve herself, had some bad diarrhea. It's her girlfriend. She tries to escape. So she runs.
And I was expecting... She makes a run for it. There's a little canoe out in the river. Right. And I was expecting them to either catch her and murder her, or for her to... I was honestly expecting an alligator.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Eaten by an alligator. But she gets on the boat and it cuts to black.
Yep, we don't see her ever again until the next thing that happens, I believe, is that...
they're feeding.
They're given, the prisoners are given some form of food, so they're eating, and then the woman whose girlfriend escaped just a minute ago gets to the bottom of her bowl and sees the tattoo.
Right, because the other girl was covered in tattoos.
Yeah, she sees her tattoos, which, and then it shows some tribesmen with this girl's tattooed skin.
Yeah, they're putting on their skin.
Yeah, and so she died. Didn't show it. Again, when you already have so few people to show their deaths, and then you don't show one.
Yeah.
I don't know, but in probably the single most shocking part of the movie, she immediately breaks her bowl on the ground and proceeds to slit her throat with one of the shards. Instantly dies.
Right, which going back to the, why don't you call someone on the cell phone? As soon as she smashed the bowl, my thought went to, oh, now they've got weapons. Nope, just killed herself, and then no one else thought maybe, oh, if that blade or the piece of the bowl is sharp enough to slit our own throats, why don't we use it to attack the villagers? Nope, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think I laughed there too, because it's like, wow, that escalated quickly,
Here's another part after that, is it funny? I feel like that's like a recurring theme. Is it funny? After that girl kills herself, Alejandro's jerking off in the cage.
Oh, man, I forgot about it. And the justification is...
He wants to keep his head clear.
We have to relieve stress to keep our heads clear. Yep. And so old Alejandro is jerking off with some, again, very quality Foley sounds. Yeah. Very quality sound effects. Yep. Gotta hand it to whoever did those. Totally, again, it's just like the penis scene in the jungle. Not that it has to do with the penis again, but it's just, why is this in the movie? And then after that, they know they're going to eat this girl that she slit her throat. So they have a bag of weed.
Yep, that one of the kids had stuffed in his boot.
Yeah, they shove it inside her. They shove it inside her body, which I guess would digest it. I don't know. So in another ridiculous scene, the entire tribe is now blazed because they cook her,
Right. And while it's cooking, all the smoke's coming out of the oven,
yep.
and you see all the tribes people come running.
Blaze it. They are high. And this is one of the most astounding scenes because our good old buddy from Spy Kids, right?
Yes, that's him.
He decides...
Now's the time to make a run for it.
Right, so they all are going to get out, and we're not really going to go too into depth about what happens to Justine and the other guy that run downriver, because they try to look for his GPS.
Yeah, it was
doesn't
dumb.
work. They get recaptured. Who cares? Kind of a pointless scene. Anyway, so our good buddy from Spy Kids is running around, and he's not so fortunate. I believe this is when they swarm
him, and he's yelling, "They've got the munchies!"
He says, "Oh no, they've got the munchies!" And this scene is a little bit brutal because then they eat him alive, and I like that. That's all right.
Here's another. Is it funny? While he's being eaten alive, a little girl runs out of the swarm of tribespeople carrying his entire leg,
very neatly severed.
I'm speechless.
Especially compared when you put that alongside with the "they have the munchies" line.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's gone. Spy Kids is gone. Say goodbye to Spy Kids.
So we're left with 3 characters?
Yep. I do want to note that while Justine and her friend, the bald man, are trying to escape, Alejandro elects to stay behind for some reason.
He reveals to them when they get back...
that the bulldozers are still coming and that they didn't stop anything.
Yep, because they stopped a company so that his friend, which runs a rival oil company, could come in and sweep up. So he's just trying to last until his friend's company comes.
Yep. So Alejandro's plan is to wait it out until the bulldozers come. He's really convinced that they're going to come save him, and he's also very convinced on being the bad guy. And anyway... skip ahead, and we've got Justine being prepared for this ritual, which you find out is a coming of age ritual where they're gonna circumcise her.
And at the same time, the other guy that she escaped with, the guy with the beard, Daniel, he's strung up, and they're hitting him with like a staff.
They break all his legs and arms.
Right.
This is a good scene. It's kind of brutal.
And then
it's good for a second.
They smear some green thing on him, which you find out is like a attractant food for ants. Bullet ants.
So he is killed by ants, but this scene is terrible. They're clearly very...
He doesn't die from the ants. He's left within death, and we'll come back to him.
The ants look very bad. The effects look very bad. You can kind of tell that the budget was really blown very early into this film.
Helicopter shot of the Amazon. All right, now what do we do?
Or a whole tribe, tribe to film it. That's our budget. And maybe the first death scene. And anyway, so Justine is all painted up. I do want to say this is going to come in soon, that kind of throughout her time in the cage, she's been playing this little necklace flute she has to this native girl, and what you think is, she's befriending her. But why on earth this little native girl would care about Justine or anybody who is playing a flute?
It's very much a how do we get the characters out of this situation?
It's a Deus Ex Machina.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Yep.
It's literally a plot intervention device, because this girl would have no context. She's within her own culture. She would have no context of wrong or right.
It'd be like if a cow, you know what I mean, started like mooing at you, and you decided, oh, I'm not gonna eat this cow.
Right.
I mean, just for example,
something weird like that. Right. Anyway. So let's go to this scene, kind of a climactic scene where they've got Justine completely naked, tied up to this table, and the witch doctor, she's painted up, they're putting the blade around her genitals or whatever, and I'm like, all right, man, this is it. This is going to be bad,
Here comes another is it funny moment.
Well, you tell me, because...
before they go to cut her, one of the tribesmen comes running full sprint, and he's holding the head of one of the bulldozer operators. So,
Oh, yeah.
and he's like just yelling something, which, we're supposed to assume they're coming, I guess. But how does this one guy kill one person and get away? It doesn't make any sense.
Because you see earlier in the film, there's complete and total gunfights going on with these tribesmen.
Because the bulldozer, the oil crew has a militia.
They have a militia with them.
With
So
guns.
I didn't even think about that. The point is they worked up to this scene, and I'm like, finally, we're gonna get something that's really like almost too disturbing, and because that would have been really disturbing, and she once this guy comes and lures the witch doctor and the other tribesmen away, this girl that Justine has been playing her necklace flute to comes and lets Justine out. It's ludicrous. It's just plot-based writing at its finest, and then she's able to escape.
And while she's escaping, Alejandro finally says, "Let me out, please."
Right.
And
now Alejandro is like, senses that maybe he's in a little too deep. I'm not sure why he didn't sense that before. She leaves him for dead.
Right.
Good for her.
Yeah. That was
maybe one of the only character-based decisions in the entire movie.
Or again, another death scene that we don't get to see.
Right, which we'll talk about that in a minute. She's able to escape, really straightforward. I don't really think there's much else to talk about besides the fact that she gets home in a helicopter. She's the only one that goes home.
And they asked, "Did anyone else? Was there anyone else alive?"
And she's like, "No." Which, of course, will come back to bite her because it turns out Alejandro is alive. Before that, we see this weird...
a dream sequence.
A dream sequence, which totally contradicts the style of the movie.
Right.
Nothing else like it, because it's not really portrayed as a dream sequence, where Alejandro comes up to her at school and says, "Oh, Justine,
I made it.
Oh, my God." And she turns around, and then she opens her mouth, and she has sharpened teeth, which none of the cannibals had sharpened teeth.
Yep.
So, and then she proceeds to bite Alejandro's neck. And anyway, and then she wakes up, and she's like, "Oh, my God."
Oh, no, she wakes up and then she goes and she's being interviewed by her father, who works for the United Nations,
Right.
and another panel
Yep.
of people, and they ask, "Did you encounter this tribe?
Yep,
We've heard that they're cannibals."
Yeah, she said, "Nope, they were fine."
Yep, she says, "I met them and they were generous," and which that didn't make sense to me either. Maybe that was her way of, like, she realized that the people she was with weren't the greatest people.
Yeah, but that they really went but it almost doesn't make sense because they were terrorized. Why wouldn't you? I mean, I'm all for. That was the only part where the movie tried to make the tribe look maybe good, and it's still too little, too late, And then she says nobody's left alive. Later, you see a group of protesters at the beginning of the movie holding up these signs that say, more wages for janitors. It's like some hippies just protesting. And now, of course, in a final movement that's supposed to be poetic, you see the same protesters holding up "Save Alejandro" signs.
Well, it's "Save the Rainforest," isn't it? But it's got Alejandro's face on it. He's become like because they think
martyr.
Alejandro's dead. He's a martyr for the activist cause.
You're right. So I didn't really understand that either. I didn't feel like that was tragic at all, especially when the credits roll.
Credits roll. We're walking out of the theater, and
wait, there's another scene.
In typical Marvel fashion,
a phone call starts. Justine, we got to talk.
It's Alejandro's sister.
It's Alejandro's sister. I saw a picture of my brother online. We have to talk. And then you see
a camera zooms in from like a satellite image, from a satellite image in space. And you see the world, and then it zooms into the forest, and you see like the tree line, the jungle. You see the tree line, and it goes down and down, and you finally see. Do you want to reveal?
You finally see who else but Alejandro staring straight up at the camera.
At the satellite camera.
At the satellite, out of the cage. Presumably he has escaped.
Yeah, he was painted, wasn't he? He had.
Was he?
Well, this is something I noticed because there's one of the tribesmen has black and yellow paint on him. Presumably the tribe are big Wiz Khalifa fans.
Yeah.
No, but just kidding.
Good.
He's kind of the war chief of the tribe, and I thought Alejandro had black paint on him.
Really?
So it was almost in my mind, it was like the tribe kind of adopted him as their new war chief because he is standing in this menacing, like large pose.
Yep.
And then the movie ends, and it kicks into some like Nickelback heavy metal, rock and roll.
Oh my God.
It was just terrible.
Much like the rest of the film soundtrack, totally generic, totally forgettable. And that's the movie. And it, stylistically, totally generic. From soundtrack to shots to characters, even to gore, mostly. There's really nothing that's gonna shock you. Which, in a movie, when the writing is bad, the characters are forgettable, it's laughable, and is it supposed to be laughable? I don't know. You better have, like we already said, some damn good shock value.
Gore scenes,
or not even shock value, some damn disturbing stuff. And this scene delivers none of that, I would argue.
I would say the same thing. Again, it's the type of movie where you're not going to be entertained unless you go in looking to laugh at it for how bad it is.
This is the kind of movie that's going to be on Netflix.
Yeah, exactly.
And because all Netflix horror movies, save for the ones that they feature, the very few that are actually stellar, you're nothing unexpected. It's less than what you're expecting. You're not going to be scared. You're not really, unless you're, I could see somebody being disturbed by this film. If you don't like gore.
Yeah, if this is like the first horror movie you've ever seen, I could see it.
Yeah, there's some gore. There's not even a ton of gore, but there's gore, and that's what I'm saying. It doesn't really know what it wants to be. It doesn't fully commit to anything. It doesn't fully commit to being a really messed up, disturbing film like a film like Hostel or Hostel 2 does. It kind of hints that it might be a comedy at times, but it doesn't really commit to that either.
I think it would have been better if they picked one. It seems to have an issue with what kind of movie it wants to be.
Even I don't want to talk about this movie at all, but even M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit committed more to being a horror comedy than this movie did. And I don't think this movie is a horror comedy, but that's the problem. What is it? What is this movie? What are I don't know.
What are you?
What is Eli Roth's style? There's no style anywhere, really. Can you think of one stylized thing in the movie besides maybe the tribes?
The only thing that you could say is like Eli Roth's thing is the gore. And it's not even...
It's marginally present in the movie, especially when the first hour of the movie is built up with characters that are forgettable, are dislikable, I would say, and most of them.
Which I was okay with them being not good characters because I wanted to see them, like I said with Sky Ferreira's character. I wanted to see her die.
Especially when one of her first lines is, "Dude, that's so gay."
Right.
That's literally a line.
Retarded. She makes Jew jokes, and she says, "That's okay, I'm Jewish."
And listen, I'm fine with idiomatic expressions like that in the context of a character, but more so, I would have, in order to, I just felt like that was coming, that she was going to be one of those characters. Okay, she's
right. You want to see her die.
She's going to die,
and you're
happy
she's not
to really
see her
that
die.
good of a person. If she's saying that stuff.
Which I think
she's just a stupid person.
That would have played into the comedy aspect of it.
Right.
That you're laughing at these people dying.
And so you don't get to see her do anything. Alejandro is the villain. The villain, it's like a Jurassic Park plot with a villain.
Scooby-Doo.
It's a Scooby-Doo plot, and you don't get to see him get his. And so in another avenue, this film doesn't set out to accomplish anything because it sets up characters that almost have no purpose at all.
I would agree, yeah.
What is their motivation besides going... I don't know. They don't...
Well, here's something for you. They actually revealed when the movie was picked up again for the second time that they would be producing a sequel.
Really?
Beyond the Green Inferno. So when we got out, we joked, oh, look at that. They set it up for a sequel.
Yeah.
A lot of movies do that. This movie's actually going to try...
I thought that was a joke.
...to make a sequel, which, who knows, it probably won't ever happen. Depending on how well this movie does at the box office, but that's a thing that's happening.
Well, let's get to my. We have to wrap up soon here. Let's talk about this question. I don't know if we've answered it or not. Who is this movie for? If it has set out to do all these things that it doesn't really do any of them.
This movie's for suckers who don't know a good horror movie.
I hate to say it.
And pick one on Netflix.
I hate to say it, but that's the kind of movie this is.
Or it's for people that know what they're getting into.
Right.
That it's not good and they want to laugh at it.
It's like one of those drinking game Netflix movies.
Exactly. Yep.
How many times are the characters going to say something ridiculous or do something stupid? I don't know. In a film that's supposed to be brutal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's not great.
No, which is sad because I really was looking forward to it. Again, if there was something, I don't know, man. If there was a good thing I was going to say about the movie is that it feels short. Even though it's almost 2 hours, it doesn't really feel like 2 hours.
If I had to give a pro to this movie, I would say that I do appreciate that he filmed on location.
Absolutely. And there are a few scenes that I do think are good.
Yeah,
and I think
the first death scene is solid.
If you stick to those scenes and you say, well, at least I was able to see those scenes.
Right.
That's something. But other than that, there's no sense of style. The soundtrack is completely inappropriately bland. Not provocative at all. It's just some kind of jungle action music like you'd see in a bad Michael Crichton movie adaptation. And there's really not much else to love or even like about this film.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that about wraps it up.
That does about wrap it up.
Episode 2 of Blood Feud podcast. We're not sure what we're going to do for next week. If you got any suggestions, feel free to send us a tweet or a Facebook message. We're on the Twitter. We're on the Facebook at Blood Feud Pod. Our Facebook is just Blood Feud Podcast. Go ahead and give us a like. Stay up to date.
Absolutely. So wrapping up National Podcast Day. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll have a new movie for you next week. I'm Sam.
I'm Neil.
We'll see you next time, guys. Bye.